morning. How the heck are you? Awesome ones. Hope all is awesome in your world. Just wanted to talk about metaphysics. Metaphysics is the study to know better the planes of what goes on in the planes of existence beyond what we normally physically see with our five senses. It requires an exercise of our other senses and working on those to perceive what is going on beyond what we normally see. Clairvoyance is one of those abilities that we can work on and strengthen, where you learn to you can see more with your physical eyes, with practice, see auras, see flows of energy, see a lot of things that you didn't see before if you really work on that. When I meditate through my mind's eye, I have very specific visuals all the time. I can perceive and see who I'm communicating with in the spirit world, claircognitively. When I'm receiving a download of information, oftentimes I'll get an impression of the sender of that information, of where it's coming from. A lot of times I don't get the specific names of my spirit guides that are communicating with me, but I am able to receive the information. The other thing I wanted to talk about is trees and time. Here's my beautiful swatch. I love swatches, and in owning a swatch again, it allows me less instances to look at my phone to know the time. I can just look at my watch, and it has no numbers or indicators, but I can tell the time on it. It's really cool. So when I meditate and I connect with the trees, they are among the most wisest of spirit guides that I connect to. They are sages. So I read a book about 30 years ago called The Seth Material by Jane Roberts, and she channeled this entity known as Seth, who apparently had incarnated with them over and over again, and was then in the 60s coming to communicate information through her to them and to all of us. And the entity Seth talked about time being everything that ever has happened or will happen is all happening now. And so when you hear people say all you have is now, that may be very much more literal than you initially think of. So when you meditate and you get into the present moment and you really, really tap into the present moment, and knowing that that is all there is this present now. And we're jumping from, with our linear perception of time, we're jumping from now to now to now to now to now to now. Those nows look different than the now before, and so we have this linear perception. So in my meditations, a while back, years ago, I started trying to really, I started connecting with the trees, and they offered me their perception of time, which is more true to what's actually going on. They don't have the linear trappings that we do. And so if you are try to listen to absorb the tree's perception and make it your own, you can see all time as one, from seed to seedling to its entire span, cycle of life, all at once. It kind of gives you this perspective, almost like pulling out from a planet and looking at everything from a galaxy perspective of wow, that is beautiful. And that different perspective helps you appreciate what you have much more. And so I was very thankful for that perspective. And so then I started to, in my meditations, look at myself the same way with what I learned from the trees. And so to see myself, my past, my present, and future all in one moment, and to really take it in. And what would unfold is this incredible, infinite, unconditional love towards past me and future me and present me. This appreciation just grew and grew and grew and grew. And each time I would peruse my past, I was healing it. Each time I saw things that hurt along the way, but they bore fruits later of that I didn't see beforehand, but something good came of it later. And examining your past can be very helpful in that way of not only forgiving all yourself, the transgressions you've committed yourself, but forgiving everyone in your past that has hurt you, and then seeing where you are now, and you wouldn't be here where you are now without all those things having happened, and there being a gratitude for even the painful things, because look at where you are now. And if where you are now has difficulties, you know your future self is looking upon you in the same way of you. What is around the corner is magnificent, and there is a reason for all the shitty things going on right now. And the act of surrender becomes apparent of how the value of the act of surrender, to let go and to know that my ego's control of everything is pretty silly. It's pretty silly for me to be such a tight director of things when my higher self is an incredible director of things. The cosmos is an incredible director. And sure, I can do things and go into action and do things, but I can't hold on to an attachment to the results of what I do. That makes me think about my years of working with oil paints, where I would have in my mind's eye where I wanted the painting to go. I had a goal, and the painting never landed exactly what I was first envisioning, but what I let go and I just went with the flow and I worked, it usually always ended up working out better than what I first envisioned. And so that was, there was surrender and just staying in motion, working, flow. And so if we can be in flow in our life of, yes, take steps forward, have goals, but if you can relax judgment of something that you wanted to have happen in a certain way, release that judgment of, this is bad, this is not what I intended to have happen. Then you do yourself a service, you give yourself a break. And it's really quite freeing to just trust that it's probably going to end up better than you intended. And if you have that mindset of, we're going in a better direction, you're no longer programming yourself over and over with the mantra of defeat, and that helps your law of attraction with your trajectory. I had lots of vintage Volkswagen buses, and almost every mechanical problem I had, I saw in my mind's eye first, and then it happened. And it was like I was manifesting all my mechanical issues. I was like, oh my God, I really hope my generator cable doesn't break, or my pulley, or I really hope my throttle cable doesn't break. Oh my God, that's a scary thing. But almost none of my mechanical issues happened without me first visualizing them and worrying about them, and then the breakdowns happened. Since I made that, and at first I was like, am I just precognitive? I'm just seeing these things before they happen. My takeaway now has changed, and I feel I was manifesting by worrying and seeing over and over again in my mind's eye this one part, or that part, or that part. I had rebuilt my engine. I knew everything, inside and out, so I knew all the parts. And when I didn't trust the parts, and I thought about about this part, and they would do exactly as I feared they would do. So now I do the opposite of that. I intentionally do not fear things and worry about things, because your likelihood of them happening is exponentially higher. So now I anticipate incredible things to happen. And usually that's what happens. I love exploring the law of attraction and working with it, and a lot of it is surrender, being like water, embody the teachings of Bruce Lee and the Buddha, Jesus, like surrender, and our ego, though it's not perfect, it's kept us alive so far, and it's not a villain. It can grow along with us and our higher selves, and we can love our egos, give our egos a lot of love, and they're part of our personality. And there's something to be celebrated in our egos, but we can teach our egos and love our egos, and our egos can learn to go with the flow of our higher self, of the universe, this universal spark, God spark within all of creation, within you. There doesn't need to be any conduit between you and God. The conduit can be directly through you in your communication of listening, which is meditation, and prayer is speaking with God. You don't need a church, you don't need anyone but you to connect with that portion of the God that is within you and within all life. No one needs to tell you what is God and what is not God. You already know, because you are God. That's what Jesus and Buddha were trying to say. Anyways, I send you love, high vibration. Hope your day is amazing. And yeah, how's that for a first video on this subject by me?